Dexter Morgan killed over 130 people across 8 seasons. He's a serial killer, a monster, the Bay Harbor Butcher. But here's what nobody calculates. What if he never existed? Not a moral debate about vigilante justice. We've argued that for years. This is pure mathematics. Remove Dexter Morgan from Miami, and you're not subtracting one killer, you're adding back every murderer he stopped, every victim they would have claimed, every investigation that would have failed. This video walks through 7 years of Dexter's timeline, 2006 to 2013, and stacks the body count, season by season, killer by killer. We'll calculate exactly how many additional victims would have piled up in the Miami-Dade County without Dexter eliminating threats the moment he confirmed their guilt. We'll examine how Miami Metro would have handled the chaos when their homicide rate was already double the national average. And we'll show why Miami, without Dexter Morgan, doesn't just become more dangerous, it becomes a hunting ground. Before the pilot episode, Dexter had been killing for about 15 years, taking out dozens of criminals who would have kept killing throughout the Miami-Dade County. Season 2 Bay Harbor's Butcher investigation confirmed that Dexter had been operating since early adulthood. When 18 bodies were found by divers in Season 2 Episode 1, the blood slide collection pointed to dozens of victims over many years. The Dexter Wiki documents several early kills. Alex Timmons, first blood slide, mid-1990s. Gene Marshall, Coleman and Max Lindquist, 2000. Larry Mueller, 2000. Anthony Rodrigo, 2002. Cindy Landon, 2004. Season 1 Episode 3 showed Dexter's very first kill, Nurse Mary, who was poisoning Harry Morgan with medication overdoses. She killed multiple patients before Harry gave Dexter permission to stop her. Miami-Dade County's statistics tell the story. In 2006, the county recorded a homicide rate of 11.45 deaths per 100,000 population, almost double the national average of 6.2. Between 2005 and 2006, homicides jumped 42%, while murder arrests only increased 8%. Dexter's victim selection followed Harry's code, only kill murderers with solid evidence who would likely kill again. Serial predators escalate. So let's do some conservative math. If Dexter took out 20 killers between 1991 and 2006, and each one killed just 3 more victims over that 15-year span, that's 60 murders Miami Metro never had to investigate. The ripple effects go beyond body count. Each unsolved murder chips away at public faith and law enforcement. Each active serial killer generates media coverage that pulls in more predators. Miami enters 2006 with 60+ additional unsolved homicides, multiple serial killers operating, and a police department already stretched thin by a homicide rate almost double the national average. Before we continue, if you're finding this breakdown fascinating, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. But those 60 bodies are just the starting point. In 2006, something emerged that made everything before it look manageable. A killer who didn't hide his work, he displayed it. Brian Moser killed at least 20 people in 6 months during Season 1, and Miami Metro had 0 viable suspects until Dexter's personal involvement cracked the case. Meaning, without Dexter, Brian keeps killing. Season 1 opened with Dexter killing Mike Donovan in Episode 1, a choir director and pedophile who murdered at least 3 young boys. Episode 1 also shows Jamie Jaworski, who had multiple murder victims but walked on technicalities. Episode 8 brought Dr. Emmett Meridian, a psychiatrist who talked at least 3 depressed women into suicide by cutting off their medication and planting thoughts of self-harm. But the season's real threat was the ice truck killer. Brian Moser's confirmed body count hit at least 20 victims before Dexter killed him in Episode 12, Born Free. Brian's method was distinctive, drained victims completely of blood, dismembered them with surgical precision, displayed them in refrigerated locations. His victims were mostly prostitute, NHI cases, or no human involved, that generate minimal investigative priority. Miami Metro found no viable suspects throughout the entire season. The case only broke when Dexter recognized personal clues Brian left about their shared childhood trauma. In Episode 9, Brian kidnapped Deborah and tried to force Dexter to kill her with him. Remove Dexter from Season 1 and the math changes completely. Mike Donovan keeps killing choir boys. He operated for years before Dexter stopped him. Jamie Jaworski had beaten the system once, so he keeps murdering. And Dr. Meridian keeps manipulating patients into suicide. Each one represents 2 to 3 more victims per year if left unchecked. But Miami Metro never identifies the ice truck killer. Brian's identity as Rudy Cooper was stolen from a murdered man. He worked as a prosthetist with no criminal record and perfect operational security. If Brian maintained his Season 1 pace of 3 victims per month and operated through 2013, that's 252 deaths. Even slashing that dramatically to 1 victim monthly, Brian adds 84 bodies minimum. Each ice truck kill generates massive media coverage. Miami's tourism takes hit. Miami Metro throws resources at an unsolvable task force. And Deborah Morgan, kidnapped in episode 12, almost certainly dies on Brian's table without Dexter stepping in. Her death in 2006 creates a permanent hole in the department. Without Dexter, season 1 ends with Mike Donovan still targeting children, Dr. Meridian still manipulating suicides, the ice truck killer active, Deborah Morgan dead, and Miami Metro no closer to catching him. Over 7 years, Brian adds a minimum of 84 victims. The ice truck killer becomes Miami's most infamous unsolved case. So here's the summary of things by the end of 2006. The ice truck killer is operating, will accumulate 84 victims by 2013. Mike Donovan is still targeting children, will accumulate 21 victims by the end of 2013. And Dr. Meridian, manipulating suicides, will accumulate 14 more victims by 2013. All the pre-2006 killers are still active. Deborah Morgan is dead. So our estimated deaths in just 2006 alone leads to 35 to 40 extra murders. Miami Metro just lost one of their own. The city's nightmare is accelerating. Season 2's Bay Harbor Butcher case never happens without Dexter, but Sergeant James Doakes' skills get redirected, and even his training can't replace what Dexter provided. The Bay Harbor Butcher investigation dominated Season 2. Without Dexter, these bodies never appear, and the FBI never shows up. But there's Sergeant James Doakes. His years as an Army Ranger in black operations sharpened instincts other detectives didn't have. He could read people, sense when something was off, pick up on behavioral cues most cops missed. That's why he was the only one at Miami Metro who sensed something was wrong with Dexter from day one. Season 2 Episode 1 showed Lil Chino, a massive gang enforcer who killed over a dozen people for the 29th Street Kings. Dexter killed him after Chino escaped his first kill attempt. Doakes' investigation of Dexter ate up huge amounts of time. Lila West killed Doakes in episode 12 by blowing up the cabin, destroying evidence and framing Doakes after death. Without Dexter to watch, Doakes redirects his investigative talents. Doakes without Dexter become Miami's Metro's best weapon, but even Doakes has limits. The ice truck killer left zero forensic evidence. Doakes works within constraints Dexter ignored. He needs warrants, evidence chains, probable cause. Dexter took out threats immediately. Doakes builds prosecutable cases, taking months or years while killers keep operating. Lil Chino keeps working for the 29th Street Kings, adding 10 to 15 more murders through 2013 as their top enforcer. Crucially, Doakes lives. Without that cabin confrontation, Doakes keeps working Miami Metro cases through 2013. But Doakes can't replace Dexter's function. Even if Doakes catches 60% of killers Dexter would have stopped, that means 40% slip through. Doakes alive improves Miami Metro's capacity, but he can't replace Dexter's function. The ice truck killer keeps operating. Mike Donovan keeps targeting children. Dr. Meridian keeps manipulating suicides. Lil Chino adds bodies for the gang. The gap between detection and elimination costs lives. So here's our 2007 summary. The ice truck killer, Mike Donovan, and Dr. Meridian are in year 2 of their operations. Lil Chino is now active. All the pre-2006 killers are still accumulating. Doakes is alive, but overwhelmed. The estimated deaths in 2007 alone is 35 to 40 murders, bringing our 2-year total to 70 to 80 additional deaths. The ice truck killer has been operating for over a year, and Doakes is doing everything possible. But Miami's problem isn't just active killers. It's the cascading failures when every investigation takes longer, costs more, and succeeds less often. George King, the Skinner, killed 3 confirmed victims, and Miami Metro identified him through Deborah Morgan's investigation. But remember, in our hypothetical, Deborah died in Season 1, changing how this case plays out. The Skinner tortured and killed 3 victims searching for drug dealer Freebo. Freebo himself was a drug dealer who had killed multiple people. Dexter killed Freebo in episode 2 after accidentally killing Oscar Prado, aka Miguel Prado's brother, in self-defense in episode 1. In the original timeline, Deborah Morgan, promoted to detective in season 3, led the investigation. In episode 12, Deborah located King's hideout. Dexter's accidental killing of Oscar triggered Miguel's friendship with Dexter. This led to Miguel killing defense attorney Ellen Wolf after Dexter revealed his vigilante work. Miguel himself became a killer who murdered for personal gain before Dexter stopped him. Without Dexter, Deborah is dead, like we mentioned. The detective who solved the Skinner case doesn't exist. Oscar Prado survives. Freebo isn't killed by Dexter early in season 3, extending the Skinner search. Freebo keeps dealing drugs and killing, adding 5 to 7 murders through 2013. But let's give things a conservative estimate. The Skinner kills 5 to 7 victims instead of 3 before Doakes eventually identifies him. Sergeant Doakes handles the Skinner case without Deborah's help. The case is solvable through traditional detective work, but investigation's slow without Deborah's skill set. So add 2 to 3 weeks to the investigative timeline. Each week costs potential victims. Without Oscar's death, Miguel never becomes a killer, preventing Ellen Wolf's murder, one of the few times that Dexter's absence actually improves an outcome. So without Dexter, the Skinner kills 5 to 7 victims, up from 3 before Doakes' investigation catches him. Miguel Prado never becomes a killer, preventing Ellen Wolf's murder, and Freebo keeps operating as a murderous drug dealer. Season 3 is unique in that Dexter's absence doesn't worsen outcomes dramatically because Dexter created some of the problems he solved. So by the end of 2008, the Ice Truck Killer, Mike Donovan, and Dr. Meridian are in year 3. Lil Chino is still operating, and Freebo will also be operating and will accumulate 5 to 7 victims by 2013. The Skinner will get caught, but adds 4 additional victims to the total, and all the pre-2006 killers are still accumulating. So the estimated deaths in 2008 alone is 35 to 40 more murders. That brings our 3-year total to 105 to 120 deaths. Now drop a comment below with your theory. If Doakes investigated the Skinner without interference, could he have solved it faster than Deborah did? Or would the lack of her skills slow everything down? Season 3 showed the system could barely function. 3 years in, Miami Metro has half a dozen unsolved serial killer cases, Deborah is dead, and Doakes is juggling investigations that would normally need entire task force. But Miami hasn't seen anything yet, because in 2009, a legend comes to town. Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity killer, operated for 30 years, killing 279 confirmed victims in 69 cycles before Dexter stopped him. And the only reason Miami wasn't his permanent hunting ground was because Dexter took him out after 1 cycle. Arthur Mitchell was an FBI legend when he appeared in Season 4. Special Agent Frank Lundy had tracked Trinity for 15 years. Each cycle involved 4 victims: a 10-year-old boy buried in concrete, a young woman killed in a bathtub, a mother forced to jump to her death, and a father bludgeoned with a hammer. Season 4 also showed Jonathan Farrow, a photographer's assistant who Dexter killed by mistake, thinking Farrow was the killer when it was actually someone else. By 2009, Arthur had completed 69 cycles, totaling 279 confirmed deaths. His cover? Deacon and Home Builder with 4 Walls, 1 Heart, a Christian charity. In Season 4, Arthur came to Miami for a build. Dexter killed Arthur in episode 12, but not before Arthur murdered Rita Morgan in revenge. Frank Lundy was shot and killed by Christine Hill, Arthur's daughter, in episode 7. Remove Dexter from Season 4 and Arthur completes his Miami cycle and leaves. 4 more victims. Rita Morgan does live though. Arthur returns to his national pattern, which is 4 victims per cycle and 1 to 2 cycles per year. From 2009 to 2019, Arthur completes 10 to 20 more cycles at his historical pace, and that's 40 to 80 additional victims nationwide. Without Lundy, who died investigating Trinity, and without Dexter's intelligence gathering, the FBI's Trinity task force loses momentum. Arthur operated successfully for 30 years. He can easily continue another decade. Would Arthur relocate to Miami permanently though? Well, the city offered everything: large population, transient residents, 4 walls projects, and a police department already drowning in unsolved cases. If Arthur were to set up shop, Miami would become his primary hunting ground, 4 victims every 6 months. So here's our conservative estimate. Arthur maintains his national travel pattern but includes Miami in his rotation. Each visit costs 4 more lives. Miami gets hit in 2009, again in 2011, and another time in 2013. That's 12 additional Miami-specific deaths. Without Dexter, Arthur Mitchell kills an additional 40 to 80 victims nationwide over the next decade. Miami gets hit repeatedly as Arthur returns for builds, adding at least 12 more deaths directly to Miami's count. Arthur Mitchell becomes the most successful serial killer in American history, and Miami becomes one of his regular hunting grounds. So by the end of 2009, you have the Ice Truck Killer, Mike Donovan, Dr. Meridian, Lil Chino, Freebo, and Trinity all operating, as Trinity will hit Miami, 4 victims in the first cycle and will return later, and that's in addition to all the pre-2006 killers accumulating. So the estimated deaths in 2009 are 40 to 45 murders, bringing us to a 4-year total of 145 to 165 deaths. The Trinity Killer was the worst of all of them, nearly 300 victims across 30 years, but we're not done stacking bodies. Miami now has multiple active serial killers operating at the same time, and the next year brings organized evil. The Barrel Girl Gang killed 14 confirmed victims over several years, and without Dexter and Lumen Pierce taking them out, the gang keeps operating with the protection of wealth, power, and organized sophistication. Season 5 introduces Jordan Chase and the Barrel Girl Gang, 5 wealthy men who kidnapped, tortured, and murdered women, with their confirmed victim count at 14 women. The members were Jordan Chase, the motivational speaker, Cole Harmon, the club owner, Dan the dentist, Alex Tilden, the security expert, and Boyd Fowler, an animal service worker who handled disposal. Season 5 also showed Dexter's kill of a random man in a bathroom, an emotional outburst following Rita's death that didn't fit the code. Lumen Pierce was one of their captives, rescued by Dexter in episode 1. She became Dexter's partner, helping identify and eliminating each gang member. The final member, Jordan Chase, was killed by Lumen in episode 12. You remove Dexter from season 5, and Lumen Pierce isn't rescued. Boyd Fowler kills her, making her victim number 15. Without Lumen's testimony, and without Dexter's investigation, Miami Metro has no path to identifying the gang. The gang had protection layers, making legal prosecution nearly impossible. Jordan Chase was a public figure with money for elite lawyers. From 2010 to 2013, that's 3 more years. At their established rate of 2 victims per year, the gang will kill 6 more women. Add Lumen Pierce as victim number 15, so a total of 7 additional deaths. Long term, without Dexter stopping them in 2010, the gang will operate through 2013, then beyond. And with 2 victims per year for a decade, that is 20 more women that will be tortured and murdered. Without Dexter, the Barrel Girl gang kills a minimum of 7 additional victims, including Lumen Pierce from 2010 to 2013. And long term, they would be allowed to operate for another decade, adding 20 more victims. The gang's wealth and sophisticated disposal method made them nearly impossible to catch through traditional investigation. So by the end of 2010, the Ice Truck Killer, Mike Donovan, and Dr. Meridian are in year 5 of operating, Lil Chino and Freebo are still operating, Trinity doesn't kill this year but will return to Miami in 2011, and now the Barrel Girl gang stays active with 2 more victims per year. And this is all with all pre-2006 killers still accumulating kills. So our estimated deaths in 2010 would be 35 to 40 murders, bringing our 5-year total to 180 to 205 deaths. Now the gang is still active, still protected by wealth and power. Doakes is investigating, but he's also still working the Ice Truck Killer case that has gone cold, handling Freebo's drug murders, and tracking Trinity's pattern when he visits. Resources are stretched impossibly thin. Travis Marshall killed 10 people in 6 months during season 6, and his delusional belief that he was bringing about the end days meant that he keep escalating until physically stopped. Travis Marshall suffered from severe dissociative identity disorder. He believed he was working with Professor James Geller to bring about the end of days. The twist, Geller was already dead. Travis had been hallucinating Geller's presence. Season 6 episode 3 showed Walter Kinney, the Tooth Fairy Killer, a retired 1980s serial killer who had murdered numerous victims. Dexter found him when Walter killed 1 more victim out of boredom. Travis's confirmed victim count hit 10 people between May and November of 2011. His kills became increasingly elaborate and public. The season's climax involved Travis attempting to sacrifice Harrison Morgan, Dexter's son. Deborah's investigation was closing in on Travis when Dexter killed him in episode 12. Remove Dexter from season 6, and also got to keep in mind that Deborah is dead. We killed her off in season 1. Harrison doesn't exist. Rita survived season 4. But Travis's delusions were escalating rapidly. He graduated from killing individual victims to staging massive public displays. Walter Kinney will keep killing sporadically, 2 to 3 victims per year through 2013 before age stops him. That's 4 to 6 additional murders. Delusional serial killers don't stop until caught, killed, or unable to continue. Without Deborah investigating, Doakes takes point again, but he's juggling multiple major serial killer investigations at once. Add 2 months to the investigative timeline. So here's our conservative estimate. Travis completes 2 more elaborate tableaux at about 3 victims each, 6 additional deaths. But Travis intended to release poisonous gas at a crowded event. If he pulls off a mass casualty plan, you're looking at dozens or hundreds of deaths. So without Dexter, Travis Marshall kills a minimum of 6 additional victims, possibly a dozen if a mass casualty tableau succeeds. And this is before Doakes' investigation catches him. Walter Kinney adds 4 to 6 more murders. Travis represents one of the most unpredictable and rapidly escalating threat in the series. So by the end of 2011, the Ice Truck Killer, Mike Donovan, Dr. Meridian are all in year 6 of operating. Lil Chino and Freebo are still operating. Trinity completes a second Miami cycle, which makes it 8 victims total so far. The Barrel Girl gang would add 4 victims so far at 2 per year, and Walter Kinney would add another 2 to 3 victims. And before Travis Marshall was caught, 6 more additional victims were added. And this is all still including the pre-2006 killers accumulating. So the estimated deaths in 2011 are 40 to 45 murders, bringing us to a 6-year total of 220 to 250 deaths. Travis Marshall's delusions finally ends when Doakes' investigation corners him, but Miami is barely holding together. The Ice Truck Killer is still active after 5 years. The Barrel Girl gang is still operating. Arthur Mitchell has visited Miami twice, leaving 8 bodies in total. Hannah McKay killed at least 5 confirmed victims as a poisoner, and her method, deaths appearing natural, made her nearly impossible to detect without Dexter's specific investigation. Season 7 introduced Hannah McKay, a poisoner who used aconite and other plant-based toxins to kill at least 5 confirmed victims. Her kills include her husband Jake, Beverly Gray, an elderly woman, and true crime writer Sal Price. Season 7 also showed Ray Speltzer, the Minotaur Slayer, who'd killed multiple victims by chasing them through a maze while wearing a Minotaur mask and wielding an axe. He slipped through the legal system on technicalities before Dexter killed him. Hannah's method was nearly undetectable. Deaths appeared to be heart attacks, accidents, allergic reactions. Hannah only came to Dexter's attention because her former boyfriend Wayne Randall led police to a body disposal site where Hannah had helped him bury victims years earlier. Remove Dexter from Season 7, and Hannah is never investigated. Ray Speltzer keeps his maze killing goings, which adds at least 2 victims per year through 2013, adding 2 to 4 additional murders. Poisoners are among the hardest serial killers to catch. No violent crime scenes, no witnesses, deaths just attributed to natural causes. Hannah's pattern was about 1 victim per year. From 2012 to 2020, or 8 years, Hannah will kill 8 more victims. These deaths are never properly investigated because they don't appear to be murders. Hannah represents a type of killer law enforcement is fundamentally bad at catching. FBI profilers focus on violent predators. VICAP tracks patterns across jurisdictions, but poisoners who make deaths look natural don't trigger any of these systems. Without Dexter, Hannah McKay kills a minimum of 1 additional victim in 2012, her first year. Ray Speltzer has 2 additional victims before Doakes catches him. Long term, Hannah could operate for her entire life, potentially killing dozens over decades. Her method makes her nearly undetectable through traditional investigation. So by the end of 2012, the ice truck killer is still active in year 7, reaching 84 victims. Mike Donovan reaches 21 total victims, and Dr. Meridian reaches 14 total victims. Lil Chino is still operating. Freebo is also still operating. Trinity will return to Miami in 2013 for his 3rd cycle, so he doesn't get any kills this year. The Barrel Girl Gang continues killing, which adds 6 victims so far. Walter Kinney would also get 4 to 6 more victims. Travis would also get 6 more victims. Ray Speltzer, before being caught, will add 2 total victims, and Hannah McKay will have 1 victim in 2012, with all the pre-2006 killers still accumulating. So the estimated deaths in 2012 is 30 to 35 murders, bringing our 7-year total approaching the 250 to 285 deaths. Hannah McKay is still out there, still poisoning anyone who threatens her secrets. But Miami's nightmare has one more chapter. Oliver Saxton killed 11 confirmed victims as the brain surgeon, and his targeting of psychopaths meant he'd keep operating as long as potential targets existed. Season 8's antagonist was Oliver Saxton, the brain surgeon. Saxton's confirmed victim count hit 11 before Dexter killed him with a pen in episode 12, and Oliver would remove portions of their brains as trophies. Saxton targeted people connected to Dr. Evelyn Vogel, the neuropsychiatrist who helped Harry Morgan create the code. Saxton's background revealed that he was Vogel's biological son, sent away to an institution after showing extreme violent tendencies as a child. Remove Dexter from Season 8, and Saxton's target selection changes. He focuses on other former patients of Dr. Vogel and people in Miami's psychiatric community. Saxton's pattern suggested that he killed 2 to 3 people per year before his Season 8 escalation. From 2013 to 2016, 3 years before his capture, Saxton kills 6 to 9 additional victims. But without Dexter to investigate, how does Miami Metro catch the brain surgeon? Saxton left minimal forensic evidence. He was intelligent, methodical, and had no criminal record. Dr. Vogel would eventually recognize the pattern, her former patients dying. Doakes would investigate, but Saxton would be careful. He might be caught within 3 years, or he might operate for 5, 7, or even 10 years. Without Dexter, Oliver Saxton kills a minimum of 6 additional victims in 2013, alone. Long term, Saxton could operate for 5 to 10 more years, killing an additional 10 to 30 victims. His intelligence and methodical nature made him extremely difficult to identify as a suspect. We've now walked through all 8 seasons, but there's one final event we haven't accounted for. The Season 8 finale showed Hurricane Laura forcing a mass evacuation, demonstrating how natural disasters multiplied the impact of active serial killers. And in our timeline, Hurricane Laura hits a Miami with multiple active serial killers who exploit the chaos. Remember the monsters depicted Hurricane Laura making landfall. The hurricane forced mass evacuations. Miami Central Hospital evacuated patients. Airports shut down. During the chaos, Dexter killed Saxon, removed Deborah from life support, and wheeled her body out undetected. Imagine Hurricane Laura hitting Miami in our timeline though. Active serial killers present during the storm would be Brian Moser, the ice truck killer, who's been operating for 7 years and is highly experienced. The Barrel Girl Gang, Jordan Chase and his 4 accomplices are still active. Hannah McKay, a poisoner and methodical and patient individual. Oliver Saxon, the brain surgeon, and Trinity killer in Miami for his 3rd cycle. Hospitals evacuate the most vulnerable, elderly, injured, critically ill, perfect victims. Mass evacuations create ideal hunting conditions. Families separated, children lost, and police stretched impossibly thin. Brian Moser could kill multiple victims in refrigerated medical transport trucks. Hannah McKay could contaminate food at evacuation shelters. The Barrel Girl Gang could grab women accepting rides from strangers. Oliver Saxon could target vulnerable people at evacuation centers as well. And Trinity can complete his 4-victim cycle undetected in the chaos. For our last bit of conservative math, if the 5 active serial killers each kill 2 victims in the chaos, that's 10 murders. Add the Barrel Girl Gang grabbing 4 women, that's 14 total. And if you add Trinity completing his cycle, now we're up to 18 murderers. Medical examiners are overwhelmed with legitimate hurricane casualties. These murders just simply disappear into statistics. The hurricane provides cover for killers to destroy evidence. Buildings collapse. Evidence room floods. Case files are damaged. Hurricane Laura hitting Miami and our timeline turns a natural disaster into a killing field. The combination of infrastructure collapse and multiple active serial killers creates conditions where 14 to 20 additional murders occur in 48 hours. These deaths are never properly investigated because they're attributed to storm casualties. So, from 2006 to 2013, here's what 7 years without Dexter Morgan means. All the pre-series killers are still operating, giving us 60+ victims. The Ice Truck Killer with 84+ victims. Mike Donovan with 21+ child victims. Dr. Meridian with 14+ suicides. Lil Chino with 10 to 15+ gang murders. The Skinner with 4 additional victims. Freebo with 5 to 7 additional victims. Trinity Killer with 12 victims, that would be 3 Miami cycles. The Barrel Girl Gang with over 7 victims. Walter Kinney with 4 to 6 additional victims. Travis Marshall with 6 additional victims. Ray Speltzer with 2+ additional victims. Hannah McKay with 1 victim, 2012 only, the first year, and Oliver Saxon with 6+ victims. And then Hurricane Laura's exploitation would lead to an additional 14 to 20 victims. That's an average of 36 to 39 additional murders per year in the Miami-Dade County. For context, the country's annual homicides range from 232 in 2013 to 316 in 2011. Adding 36 to 39 murders annually represents a 15 to 17% increase in the county's homicide rate. That puts Miami-Dade's murder rate at about 13.5 to 14 per 100,000 population, making it one of the most dangerous metros in America, approaching cities like St. Louis and Baltimore. So what happens to Miami Metro? Sergeant Doakes becomes their best detective, but he can't handle 6 active serial killers at once. The Ice Truck Killer case goes cold. Deborah Morgan dies in 2006. Frank Lundy gets shot in 2009. By 2013, Miami Metro homicide is demoralized, understaffed, and drowning in unsolved serial cases. Doakes himself is on the verge of burnout after 7 years juggling cases that would normally need entire FBI task forces. So what would happen to public trust? When serial killers rack up unsolved victims at 2 to 3 per month, the public loses faith in law enforcement. Tourism drops sharply. Who wants to vacation in a city where serial killers hunt freely? Property values decline. Businesses relocate. The city's reputation as America's playground collapses into America's nightmare. And then our final question, what happens to the killers? The serial killers don't exist in isolation. They inspire each other. When Miami becomes known as a city where serial killers operate for years without being caught, it attracts more predators. By 2013, Miami doesn't just have the backlog of 250+ deaths. It has a reputation as a city where you can get away with murder if you're smart enough. Copycat killers emerge. The FBI designate Miami as a serial killer hotspot. The real horror isn't the body count, it's the cascade. Each unsolved murder case makes the next one harder. Each active killer emboldens another. Each year without Dexter, Miami's infrastructure groans under weight it was never designed to carry. The Ice Truck Killer operating for 7 years. The Barrel Girl Gang protected by wealth. Trinity returning on schedule. Hannah McKay's victims chalked up to natural causes. And Oliver Saxon removing brains while the city focuses on more obvious threats. Miami Metro isn't built for this. No police department is. They're designed to catch criminals who make mistakes, leave evidence, and operate sloppily. But Dexter took out the smart ones, the careful ones who understood forensics, who planned meticulously, who could operate indefinitely if left unchecked. Without Dexter, Miami's homicide clearance rate plummets. The national average is 60%. Miami without Dexter drops to 35, maybe lower. The math is brutal. 36 additional murders per year that don't get solved means 36 killers who realize they can keep killing. The system doesn't just fail, it advertises its failure. By 2013, Miami-Dade County has multiple active serial killers with established patterns, a police force reaching the breaking point, and a public that's lost faith in law enforcement, and a homicide rate approaching the most dangerous cities in America. Our final count is 250 to 274 additional confirmed murders, dozens of unsolved serial killer cases, and a city that's becoming proof of something most people don't want to accept. Sometimes, the monster hunting monsters is the only thing standing between civilization and chaos. If you enjoyed this breakdown examining exactly what Miami lost when Dexter Morgan operated outside the law, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. And check out our previous video breaking down exactly how long it would take the FBI to catch Dexter Morgan using real federal investigation protocols.